Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Halftime on the Hudson. I am Robert DeFelice, and with me today is Connor Hall, Matt Spirio, and Jack Martin.
Today, we're going to be doing a mock of the NFL draft that's coming this week. Really excited for that. Should be a lot of fun. We're doing first round only because outside of the first round, who knows where it's going to go. Before we do that, I just want to say a quick thank you to all the healthcare workers that are doing the best they can to protect us in this unprecedented pandemic. We're all thankful for that.
Yeah, for real. That's a good point. Time's a little crazy. We're doing the Zoom call, but you know what? We're making the most of it. So with that, let's get to it. Halftime of the Hudson NFL draft is officially open. And with that, Jack is on the clock for the Bengals.
All right, so I think everyone's known for a long time the Bengals are in love with Joe Burrow. So at number one overall, they will take Joe Burrow, coming off one of the most prolific seasons seen by a college quarterback.
All right.
Agree with it. He's solid. He's going to be good.
I mean, there's really no complaints there. All right, I'm up at number 2 for the Redskins. I think these are the only two locks in the draft. I'm gonna be honest, is 1 and 2. Joe Burrow is going 1. There's no issues there. The Redskins are taking Chase Young. I mean, he had, I think, 16 and a half sacks in 12 games. He is one of the best pass rushers that we've ever seen. He's drawn comparisons to Hall of Famers this whole time. It's honestly a no-brainer for the Redskins. Just gonna be honest.
I agree. All right, that puts me up at number 3 with the Lions. And with that, I am picking Jeff Okudah, the corner out of Ohio State. He ran a 4.48 40 in the draft, and the Lions secondary definitely needs some help, so I think he would make a great fit in their system. So with that, I take Okudah.
Yeah, Okudah's going to be nice for them. Going to be a nice replacement over Darius Slay, I think, for Detroit now they lost him. But next, my pick 4, New York Giants. I think easy decision for them right here. Yeah, got the jersey on. I think easy decision for them would be to go Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons is an absolute animal. He's a Swiss Army knife on the defense. Dave Gettleman could always pull a Dave Gettleman move and get an offensive lineman at 4, but I think Isaiah Simmons should be the way that they go.
Dave Gettleman loves the hog mollies, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Simmons is a great pick. Giants need help in a lot of different positions, and he can play those positions.
Yeah.
But for the Dolphins, they have a tough decision on whether to go with Tua Tagovailoa or Justin Herbert. And I think they haven't had a true playmaking quarterback since Dan Marino. So I think they take the risk on Tua coming off the major hip injury.
Bold decision.
That makes things easy for me at 6 with the Chargers. I really don't know what's going to happen on draft day between those two. But I can tell you right now is that I wholeheartedly believe the Chargers are going to take whichever guy Miami doesn't. So with that being said, Tua's off the board. The Chargers are going to take Herbert. He doesn't have to start right away. They have Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he could foreseeably play the first few games of the season until fans inevitably get mad and want to see Herbert in the game. But we've seen Tyrod Taylor do it for Baker Mayfield. I think he started the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. It would be a similar situation with probably even less pressure to get Herbert on the field because at least the Chargers have won games in the past 2 years. So at the end of the day, Herbert just makes the most sense for the Chargers, and they're not going to be in this position very often to get a franchise quarterback, so you got to take it.
Agree with that.
And that puts me up next at pick number 7 with the Panthers. This one's a little bit of a surprise pick, but I think it makes a lot of sense for the Panthers, and that's Clavon Chaisson. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation on that, but
Clavon Chaisson, yeah.
He's an edge rusher out of LSU. The Panthers definitely need some help on the pass rush, and I think he's very, very underrated. His combine, he performed extremely well, but still isn't getting the looks that I feel he deserves. But I think the Panthers can see that he can provide a serious help to their pass rush, and his size and speed is insane, to say the least. It's comparisons have been drawn from him to Von Miller / Bradley Chubb, so I think the Panthers will take him there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be nice. He's quick.
Just build on that real quick.
Yeah.
I know that might seem like a reach for a lot of people, but if you look back at last year, you had Cleveland Farrell, who actually ended up going number 4 immediately after Clemson wins the national championship. A lot of those players' stock really increased, and I don't think anyone thought Cleveland Farrell was going to go 4. But I think this could be a very similar situation for Chasen, who ends up in the top 10 coming off the heels of a national championship win. So I actually like that pick a little bit.
Yeah, dude's explosive, and I like that a lot. I think he could really make some big moves and be a real guy who puts on a lot of pressure for Carolina. For me, I'm at 8 right now. Arizona Cardinals are up. I think the best move for them here is to go out and get Tristan Wirfs. He's regarded as one of the top 2, top 3 offensive linemen in this draft, maybe even the best one. They gotta protect Kyler Murray. You can't build with this franchise quarterback if you got nobody to protect him. So I think Tristan Wirfs is a nice fit for them. Build that line around Kyler Murray so he doesn't have to run around all the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's smart that when you have a playmaking quarterback, you don't rely on them to always make play on their own, and you get them help and some protection.
Right.
Now with the Jaguars, I went with a bit of a surprise pick with Grant Delpit. Now I know there's phenomenal talents like Derek Brown on the board still, but the Jaguars have Yannick Ngakoue and Calais Campbell up front. But after losing Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye, they need a lot more help on the back end than they do up front. So I think they may reach a little bit here for the safety out of LSU.
That's not to say he's bad either. He's a good safety. Grant Delpit's good.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, I'm up at 10. I hate to, before I make my pick, take a shot here at Grant Delpit, but I'm going to. I'm not a big believer in Grant Delpit. He struggles in the open field to make tackles. And the Jaguars, I think, actually could use help on the D-line. I think Derek Brown would be a good fit. Cleveland now is in a situation where I know they would love to go tackle, but Derek Brown's on the board. If we were doing trades, I'm sure this would be a situation maybe they trade back to a team who wants Derek Brown or not. Best available player, they take Derek Brown. He is, I think, the last of the blue chip guys, you could say, after Burrow, Young, Okudah, Simmons. I think he's the last one. And falling at 10, I just don't see a way the Browns would really pass up on him. I think he's just the best player on the board.
Yeah, putting him with Myles Garrett would be absolutely dangerous for any team that would go up against them.
Yeah, maybe Derek Brown could swing his helmet at some people.
Yeah.
All right, that puts me up with the Jets at number 11. Now, this is a very controversial pick, to say the least. I picked Mekhi Becton. He's a very agile offensive lineman. Sam Darnold got absolutely slaughtered this past season. He struggled immensely. He was seeing ghosts. It just wasn't pretty for Sam Darnold, and they definitely need to get some support for him. But it just recently came out that Becton failed his drug test. There's still not a whole lot of information about it yet, whether he's disqualified, whether he's going to face any sort of punishment for it. It's still very, very unclear. So I think for now, if the draft was to take place today with the lack of information that is out there, I still see the Jets taking him at number 11.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Now, my team, my pride and joy, the Raiders. Let's get it. Pick 12. All right, we had a fantastic draft last year. Got some really great guys. Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, you already know, got the jersey on. But the one area that we really showed that we had a weakness at was wide receiver, especially with Antonio Brown leaving, all that drama. Tyrell Williams was hurt on and off the whole season. But I think the guy here that we go out and get is CeeDee Lamb. He's explosive. He's fantastic after the catch. And I think pairing him with Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr throwing the ball to them would be absolutely fantastic. CeeDee Lamb's the pick here.
Shout out Hunter Renfrow. It's my guy.
Yeah, Hunter Renfrow's incredible, bro. The slot machine.
They still finish behind the Broncos, though.
Not this season. Not this season.
We'll see.
Not going to be.
That's not bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really good receivers in this draft. So CeeDee Lamb's not a bad pick, but I could see them taking a number of receivers at that spot. Now, the 49ers, I see them going to the defensive side of the ball, despite all the success they had last year with C.J. Henderson, because the one weakness on that defense was who they had across from Richard Sherman. So I think C.J. Henderson can lock down that other half of the field and make that defense even scarier than it already was.
I think that would be great for C.J. Henderson, too. He could learn from one of the greats, Richard Sherman.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want Richard Sherman coming after me for talking about his name, but this season definitely showed some weakness in him. He's getting older. He's getting up there in age. You saw in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl that downfield he did get burnt quite a few times.
Burnt toast, bro. Burnt toast.
So I think bringing in some young talent will not only kind of give him a jump start to say they might be trying to phase me out. But it's also good for him to come in and get mentored by Richard Sherman, one of the best to play the game, and really help bring him up as a professional player. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah,
I'm with
and I think it would be nice to see get some of that pressure off Richard Sherman too for being cornerback number 1. Maybe you could slide him down, put him at 2. C.J. Henderson could take over when he's going up against top receivers. Take some of that pressure
especially
off
some
him.
those younger, faster guys that
Right.
Sherman struggled a little bit with.
Yeah.
I think it preserves this 49ers Super Bowl window just a little bit longer by taking a corner. So that pick makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up at 14 for the Bucs. I think the Bucs. It's kind of a weird situation where you sign a 42-year-old quarterback. It doesn't happen very often in the NFL, but it's kind of a thing now where we have to be all in. And when you're all in, you can't be taking project players. You can't be taking guys who are going to pan out in 2 years. You need guys who are going to come in and impact the game now. And that's why I have Jedrick Wills slot here, tackle from Alabama. He has started 28 consecutive games. He is reliable. You're going to plug and play him. He's going to protect Tom Brady. And at the end of the day, it's going to try to elevate that Buccaneers offense into a playoff team, which is what they're trying to do in this 1 to maybe 2 year window.
For sure. And that puts me up with the Broncos, my team, my boys. It's been no secret that they've struggled with their front offensive 5 for the past few years. They've tried drafting to solve it a few times, but nothing's working out extremely well for them yet. Garrett Bowles is still in his rookie contract, and he's had a rough few seasons. I think it was 5 penalties in 1 game this past season.
Rough as them and Rob.
So I think that he's definitely still is something they need to address, and they need to do it in the first round. It's their top need. They have Drew Lock, a young quarterback who has a lot of potential, but if he keeps taking hits early in his career, it won't be as long and as prosperous as the hope for it. So with this pick, I see the Broncos taking Andrew Thomas.
It's a good pick. It's definitely a good pick for them. Andrew Thomas sliding back that far, that's the best they can ask for.
As a Broncos fan, I have no complaints. I would love a receiver, but at the end of the day, I understand why tackle applies.
For sure. All right, next pick is up for me. Atlanta Falcons. All right, this year, Desmond Trufant looked like he was kind of on the decline, and they traded him away. They got rid of him, or they released him. Excuse me, not traded him away. They released him. But they got to replace that, or else they're going to have some big holes in their defense. I think that is actually one of their biggest holes because I do like their safeties. They got Keanu Neal back there. He's an animal. But by getting somebody new, Christian Fulton, I think, is who they should go with here. He's the number 3 corner on the board, in my opinion. I think he's really good. He does have some character issues in the past where he was suspended the whole 2017 season. But I think that's something that they can overlook, and I think they'll take him.
Yeah, I think the Falcons are an interesting spot. They could go in a number of directions, but I've been hearing a lot of corner. So if not going to trade up to get somebody, it makes sense to just take the best available guy on the board. As for me now, I'm up at 17 with my favorite NFL team, the Dallas Cowboys. This is tough. Again, this is a similar situation. I guess you guys don't like to pick defensive tackles. I guess it's not sexy enough for you guys. Javon Kinlaw's on the board. We saw him dominate the Senior Bowl practice the entire week. I know that the Cowboys went and they signed Dontari Poe and they signed Gerald McCoy, but Javon Kinlaw adds a lot of youth to that group. They're going to build this thing up from the front line and work their way back. So you bring in another impact player up front, and Kinlaw is the best player on the board. So I'm taking him.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good pick because Poe and McCoy aren't the youngest players. So it's good to have a younger player come in, learn under them, so it's an easier transition when one of them is bound to start declining or retire.
Exactly.
Now, the Dolphins are back on the clock, and they did a lot on defense in the offseason. Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, 2 very solid players. But the one position they didn't really address was getting a really good edge defender. Taco Charlton did great when they picked him up, but they need someone else. And I think AJ Epinesa is a great fit here. His combine was a little weak, but if you look at the tape, he played phenomenally, and I think the Dolphins trust what they see on the tape.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think AJ Epinesa he's been sliding a little bit. I think from when people initially had him when the initial scouting was going on, but I think he's still a really solid player. He's got good hand movements, good hand work. He's explosive. I think that's a good pick. Definitely think that's a good pick.
I agree too, and I don't think he would have slid down to the third pick of the Dolphins at 26. So I think it was smart to grab him there.
For sure, yeah, for sure. All right, coming back to the Raiders. Let's get it. All right, so the Raiders. On the opposite side of the ball, on the defensive side, we need help at the opposite of the wide receiver. We need help at corner. All right, we had Trayvon Mullen, who was really good, better than I expected him to be. But we still needed help. We had Darryl Worley. He was okay all season. But I correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we re-signed him yet. So I think that's what they're going to target here is cornerback. And I think the guy that we should go out and grab is Jeff Gladney. Jeff Gladney is a physical player. I think he has really nice hit movements. He's solid. He has a big upside, I think. He could prove to be a real nice lockdown corner. Pairing him with Trayvon Mullen, who's like a little bit smaller, I think that'll be a nice duo there. Complement each other nicely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that pick. I think it's a smart move. Get two solid young corners that can be cornerstones on that defense for a while to come. Now, the Jaguars are on the clock, and as of right now, despite rumors and everything, they haven't signed Cam Newton. So they're going with Gardner Minshew. They seem to have faith in him. And if you have faith in him, you want to help him out. And I think you go with Jerry Jeudy here, give him a nice, solid number one weapon to pair with DJ Chark, who I think surprised a lot of people with how well he performed last year. So I like them taking Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice because you got to stick with Minshew Magic. You know what I'm saying? Give him some weapons.
Yeah,
I'm just not a believer in Gardner Minshew.
That's sad to hear. I'm sad to hear that. I think he's the man, bro. He's got the stash. He's drinking smoothies right before games. Come on, what else could you
How
want?
can you not believe in him?
He's dollar store Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield is already like dollar store Brett Favre.
You shut your blasphemous mouth right now.
All right. So that puts the Eagles on the clock. Now, I personally am kind of surprised that he fell this far, and I think with the Eagles' desperate need for help at wide receiver, they need someone who can actually catch passes downfields and not drop them. So I think the Eagles take Henry Ruggs here. I think it's a great pick. Definitely a start right as soon as he gets to practice. He's going to hopefully bring new life to the Eagles wide receiver core and maybe help them score some touchdowns, not drop passes, and be a little more successful in the pass game.
Rob, I'm looking at the board. It's your fault he fell this far. You took Becton at 11 for the Jets, and then you took Thomas for the Broncos at 15. That's the reason he's still on the board.
Well, set myself up.
It's your fault.
Well, the Eagles profit off me then. What can I say?
Rob's rigging the drafts for the Eagles.
Yeah.
I'm like the John Elway of this, just kind of going off on a whim and see how it works out.
All right, I'm up at 22 for the Vikings. I know everyone is really pressed to see the Vikings take a receiver. I don't think they traded Stephon Diggs just to go immediately get a receiver. This is a deep receiver group, and I think day two there'll be a guy who they could find instead of just taking one on day one. I kind of went in a different direction here. I took Yetur Gross-Matos. I think that the Vikings, Everson Griffin opted out of his contract. He's gone. You need someone opposite Daniel Hunter. And in the NFC, as of recent, the formula has been build a front seven, and that's how you win games. We saw the Eagles do it. The Rams did it to an extent when they got to the Super Bowl. We saw the Niners do it last year. If you want to be successful in the NFC, you have to have a front seven. You have to have edge rushers, and you have to be able to generate a pass rush with four guys. And Gross-Matos, he's had 17 sacks the past 2 years. We put him on the opposite side, and he could be a day one starter for them.
Yeah, I like that pick because, before we made this draft, I was thinking receiver because they lost Stephon Diggs. Adam Thielen needed some help. But I think that pick makes a lot of sense. They lost some of their talent on their defensive line, and I feel like people don't always think of that because for a while they've had a really good defensive line. So I think that taking Yetur Gross-Matos here is a really nice pick and just right away replace what they lost.
All right, cool.
Which brings me to probably one of my favorite picks to talk about. As a Broncos fan, I do not like the Patriots, but I do live in New Hampshire, so I am kind of in Patriots country, so I do kind of stay up to date on all the talks and everything like that and do stay very involved. So Brady, is gone. Patriots Nation is very, very sad, and it makes me very happy. And they need to find an heir to their throne. And I mean, Bill Belichick is a man of very few words, but in those few words, it does not seem that Belichick believes in Jarrett Stidham to be that guy. So I think they go out and get Jordan Love with this pick.
Interesting pick. Definitely interesting pick. You're not sticking with Stidham? You're not going to be a guy sticking with Stidham?
I don't think he's the guy.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised you think that because, I mean, we've never really seen him play. So
The only way Bill Belichick sticks with Jarrett Stidham is if he determines that he wants Trevor Lawrence that badly that he's going to play the rest of the league and say, I'm going to start Jarrett Stidham for 16 games because I'm the best to ever do it.
Tank for Trevor, bro. Tank for Trevor. It's all about it.
My legacy is never going to be tarnished because I've won 8 Super Bowls.
If he goes to the Patriots,
Now,
that would be.
Now, I don't know if Jordan Love would be a starter right away. I think they might give Stidham a chance.
Of course they
I think they'll give him a few games to see how he does, and if he becomes consistent, then they'll keep Love in the back pocket and let him continue to train and grow and mature in the league, and then see when it's time to take over. Because in case you forgot, the last time the Patriots pocketed a young quarterback and waited for him to take over when the time was right, it worked in their favor. So we'll see how it goes.
We will
The other
see.
thing is they have Brian Hoyer as well, I believe. So they have a veteran to help coach him up.
Very true. And I think Brian Hoyer is a good football IQ guy. I think he knows what he's doing. He's been around for a while. Even though he might not be the best quarterback there is, obviously, I think he's got a good football IQ. He might be able to train him up. Be nice to see. All right. So pick 24. I have one question for you guys. One question. Who dat? Who dat? Well, it's the Saints. It is the Saints, baby. 24. They're up right now. New Orleans Saints. And who is they going to need help at? Let's think about their defense real quick. Let's break it down. Defensive line. They got a great defensive line, right? They got Marcus Davenport, right? And they always, I feel like every year they're making a pick at defensive line, right? Or is that just me? Okay, then we look at their secondary. Marshawn Lattimore is fantastic. And they just signed Malcolm Jenkins at safety, right? They're great. Oh, and I forgot to mention before Cameron Jordan, too, on the defensive line. But what's the one spot when you think about the Saints defense that is the weakest part? It's that linebacking core. That linebacking core is really not that great. They don't really have any talent there. So I think they go out and get a guy who I'm surprised slid down this far, Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray, I think, is really talented, a solid tacker, really good linebacker. He's a good personality, too. I think he's a really nice guy. And I think this is going to be a really nice pick. It's going to make their defense really solid. He's
a nice guy. So
he's a nice guy. Come on, he's a character guy. You got to have character guys. Listen, think about the picks last year, Mike Mayock and John Gruden. You know, I'm going out of their book. You got to pick high character guys to build your team around.
My uncle Steve's a nice guy. It doesn't mean that the Saints should draft him 24th overall.
Is he an all pro linebacker?
Listen,
is he a fantastic linebacker?
I guess not.
Yeah, is he like a 21-year-old linebacker who's stellar at the game of football? I don't think so.
To be fair, the Saints have not had a great linebacker since Manti Te'o. Let's be real here.
Exactly, and that's not saying nothing. And I don't want to hear no imaginary girlfriend jokes. Come on now, guys. Let's keep it clean out here. Poor Manti.
No, listen, I'm okay with the Kenneth Murray pick. I'm just a little hurt. You got Patrick Queen right in the backyard in LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Move him right from LSU to New Orleans. It's I don't know how long it is. I've never been. Maybe like a 10-minute ride. I'm a little hurt you would not take Patrick Queen, but whatever. I'm back up. It's another pick for the
Good.
I'm picking a receiver again, so everybody don't worry about it. I'm going in a different direction. They get one guy in the D-line. Let's put a guy in the O-line. There was a lot of talk last year about taking Riley Reif and moving him from left tackle to right guard. Last year they were very successful in drafting Garrett Bradbury and pushing Pat Elflein to left guard. They put Bradbury at center. I think this would be a similar situation where you take Reif, you put him at right guard, and then you plug in Austin Jackson at left tackle. I think that it would really just solidify that the 5-man group that they have, help Dalvin Cook, help Kirk Cousins, and try to make a run in the NFC where I can't remember the last time a team in the NFC went to back-to-back Super Bowls. So the window's always open every year for new teams. I guess it was Seattle back in 48 and 49, but every year it seems there's a new team who's taking advantage of that window. So I just think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Vikings do need a lot of help on the O-line with Dalvin Cook, who's had a phenomenal season behind that O-line already, which isn't the greatest. And Kirk Cousins, everyone has an opinion about him. Is he good? Is he bad? I think within the right system, he can succeed, and he needs a good O-line to do that. Now, the Dolphins are back on the clock for their final pick of the first round. Feels like I've made 50 for them. And I have them going with DeAndre Swift, despite the fact that they signed Jordan Howard in free agency. Last offseason, their leading rusher was Ryan Fitzpatrick. So you can only go up from there. And the one area I feel Jordan Howard really lacks in is in the pass game. And Swift is very versatile. He can run, he can pass, he's decent in protection. And I think pairing him with Howard makes a really good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I think it would be similar to what we saw with Miles Sanders this year, where maybe in the beginning you give Jordan Howard a little bit more of those touches. You know, you slowly work Swift in, but by the end of the year in Philly, we all knew that Miles Sanders was the RB1, and I think it would be a similar situation here with Swift.
And I definitely think that's a move around the league now to have multiple running backs, because the league took note of what happened to Todd Gurley. Making someone too much of a workhorse drastically shortens their field of when they're at their peak. That it killed Todd Gurley. So you see teams like the Broncos went out and got Melvin Gordon. So now you take the pressure off Phillip Lindsay. So you see them both trading off snaps, which will probably be a 50-50 split throughout the season, because both of them are very talented in their own perspective. To see, okay, third and long situations we'll have in Lindsay, but second and short, we're going to give it to Melvin Gordon to drive it straight up the middle and get the first down. So I think it's definitely a move around the league to see teams split snaps between running backs.
Yeah, that is actually a really good point. NFL franchises don't care about your fantasy team, so they're going to bring as many running backs in as they want, and no one's going to be getting 30 touches every week because that's the way the league's moving.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that the options that they would have to play both running backs at their strengths. You know, Jordan Howard, plug him into the run game, use him a lot more in heavy run sets, and then use DeAndre Swift in the passing game, because he is incredible in the passing game. He's great at running routes, great at catching the ball, run after catch stuff. I think that'd be really nice. Really nice two-headed beast they got there.
Mm-hmm. All right, that puts me up at the Seahawks. I'm a lineman at heart, played lineman for years. So that's why this will be my fourth lineman that I have
You
drafted.
played lineman?
Yes, I did.
Dude, you're like, what? There's no way you played lineman. You're like, I feel like you were like this thin.
I was the center. I was the third skinniest offensive lineman in the state of New Hampshire.
Wow. I want to know who the two other skinniest linemen were in the state of New Hampshire.
Right, I probably had him by a few pounds.
There's only 4 football teams in the state of New Hampshire, actually.
Hey, watch it. But anyway, the Seahawks, I see them going out and getting Joshua Jones shortly after the Combine. Mike Solari came out, the offensive line coach for the Seahawks, had commented on a few guys that he was impressed with following the Combine, and Joshua Jones was one of them. He's the only one, I believe, left of that group of guys that he said he was impressed with. And he's very agile. So I think for a mobile quarterback like Russell Wilson, he's able to keep moving and still provide protection for us as he moves around in and out of the pocket. So I think he's a good addition to the Seahawks offensive line.
Yeah, I like that. Try to get something to stop Russell Wilson from having to run all over the line of scrimmage every game. Dude's running left and right the whole game. Give him some time to throw, right? Yeah, I like that pick. I like that. So I'm up. Matt, this pick's for you after you just said that. It's perfect timing. Patrick Queen's the guy here for the Ravens, I think. Since they lost C.J. Mosley, there's been that gap that they haven't been able to replace last season. And I think putting him in would be really, really nice. He's a good player. I think he's also has a high football IQ. I think he can come in with
a nice guy.
I think he's a nice guy. That matters. Character guys. Come on, character guys. I think he's going to come in, though, day one, wear the green dot for the team, and I think he'll be the caller for the defense. I think he's a good pick. Good guy. And he can – what impresses me the most, I think, is how he can play in coverage. That's like a trait that you almost never see in a linebacker. And I think he's talented enough at that, more so than a lot of other linebackers are. So I think that's really nice to see.
Yeah, I think he is the definition of a modern linebacker, what linebackers in the NFL are asked to do these days. And I think the Ravens, if they could find a way to somehow get him at 28, that would be scary.
Yeah.
This is my last pick here. I'm up for the Titans. The Titans somehow are picking at 29 because they made the AFC Championship. I don't expect that to happen again, but if it's going to, they're going to need to fill some of the holes on that defense, most notably at corner. Logan Ryan is gone, I think.
Yeah.
Malcolm Butler right now is slotted to be the number 2 corner, which is a scary thought. So I'm taking A.J. Terrell. Terrell is a guy who I think really could actually go higher than this. I think the only thing that's scaring teams is the last time that we saw Terrell, he was getting lit up in the national championship. And it's a little unfair because everyone got lit up by LSU this year.
That's true.
But for the circumstances that we're dealing with this pandemic and teams not getting a closer look at a lot of guys, we have to go on what we saw on film. And the last time we saw Terrell was not his finest moments. With that being said, I still think he's a first-round pick. And I think the Titans would love to get him, put him as a starter, and just at the end of the day solidify that secondary. So I think it's a good pick.
I think it's a really interesting point you bring up too, just in general about team scouting and basing off of game footage, because that could make someone fly up the boards or that can make someone fly down the boards. Someone like A.J. Terrell, he could go even farther down than that just for the plain fact that in the championship game he was toasted. So it's really something interesting that we have to watch out for, both this season and I think how they progress after that, because how much will teams' picks be affected by this lack of being able to test them and stuff like that for pro days and what have you. But I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I've actually read into some things, and obviously the idea has crossed my mind that in the middle of the draft, especially like rounds 3, 4, 5, you could see a lot of teams just trading their picks away for next year because this scouting cycle was so marred by a lack of getting to see these players up close that if there's not a player that they're comfortable with, and they would, I'm sure there's a team out there who would trade a 3rd-round pick this year for a 4th-round pick next year, just for the sake of we're going to get to be able to look at some of these guys. It's happened in the past where we've seen that kind of like a 3rd for a 4th or a 4th for a 5th because teams are just so in love with players. But I honestly would not be surprised if we saw those kind of trades go down just because of these circumstances.
Yeah.
I could see it going the other way too, that because teams are more willing to trade, if a team that's later in the round has someone that they feel comfortable with, they'll be willing to make that move because other teams, they don't have to pay as much to move up this year.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, it's a really interesting way to look at it too, that they can move up a lot easier. It's a good point.
So that brings me to my last pick at number 30 with the Packers. I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers for a second first and say that he's getting up there in age. He's definitely always been a pocket passer in his career, and he's known for crazy downfield passes, the amount of Hail Marys he's thrown in the last few seasons. And he has always needed very fast, very explosive wide receivers. He's got one of the most explosive in the league right now in Devontae Adams, still very young, still has a very promising career ahead of him, but has already shown so much. And I think they can definitely add to Rodgers' downfield arsenal with Justin Jefferson. And I think by picking him, it makes them even more of a downfield threat.
Yeah, I definitely agree that when you have a player like Rodgers, you want to give him all the weapons possible because if there's a play to be made, he's going to make it. And just with a weapon like Jefferson, it'll make it that much easier for him to make those phenomenal Hail Mary falling to the ground passes that we love to see out of the Packers offense. Now, I'm up with the 49ers, and similar to what we said with A.J. Terrell, T. Higgins is a player that did not look good in the national championship. And I like him here to the 49ers. Emmanuel Sanders is gone. They need a number 1 receiver. People have questions about Garoppolo. And I think getting a big body receiver like Higgins would be a great help to Garoppolo on the outside. He loves throwing to big receivers like George Kittle at tight end. So I think getting someone tall on the outside to complement that would be great for the Niners offense.
Yeah, I think his catch radius is really what separates him from a lot of the guys in this group. I mean, Lamb and Judy are obviously such clean route runners, and Ruggs is all speed, and Jefferson could kind of be that next great slot receiver. But Higgins is really that big guy on the outside, and Garoppolo is not the most accurate. Higgins' catch radius can really make up for that at times. So I like that fit.
Yeah, it's a nice fit for sure. And now I'm up. Last pick in the first round. We have the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. I think the best pick for them here would be to go – well, first of all, Jack, you took the guy who was my dream pick for the Chiefs would have been DeAndre Swift. I think having DeAndre Swift paired up with Patrick Mahomes and that offense
Scary.
would be a match made in heaven. They'd be incredible, you know. But I think that since, you know, they can't go out and do that, I think the next best option would be to get J.K. Dobbins, still a very talented running back. He's probably number 2 on my board. I like him a lot, and I think that just by plugging him into the Chiefs' offense, Andy Reid will find a way to make him successful. You know, he's done that in the past with Damian Williams this year. Even though they have decent running backs, I think that they could still use one that could maybe get to that star level that they haven't had since probably Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about Dobbins, the fit, just because he struggled a little bit as a pass catcher at times. But I think the point that Rob brought up before about teams wanting multiple running backs, I think Williams could honestly be that pass catching guy, and some of the rushing duties are taken off of him, and that's where Dobbins really fits into the offense, as Williams could be the pass catcher, and Dobbins is more of the short yardage rusher. But Williams does have a nose for the end zone, so who knows? I think the two could find a way to work together, and if anyone's going to figure it out, it would be Andy Reid.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Well, that closes our first round of the halftime on the Hudson draft. Definitely some surprise picks in there. Some stuff we didn't expect to see. Obviously, with no trades, we decided not to do any trades. The actual draft day itself could potentially work out much differently, so we'll just have to wait and see. One last point I wanted to throw in there, a little hometown guy to look out for. Peter Delatorre from Marist has been working with a few teams and has actually had his pro day canceled because of the pandemic. But he did a virtual one. He has been getting looks throughout the past season. We had multiple scouts come to the field and check him out for the league and see where it is. Now, I don't see him going early in the draft whatsoever. Perhaps he won't even get drafted, but could get picked up to a team as an undrafted free agent. So very interesting to keep our ears out on that one to see where he may end up, because I definitely think he has the potential. He's a little smaller for an edge rusher and a linebacker, but he makes up for it with his speed and his strength. So definitely something to keep our eyes on to see someone like that get out there in the league.
Yeah,
I've actually heard he's a really nice guy, so the Bengals are considering taking him right with Joe Burrow, because he's such a good dude that he's right in the race.
Very nice guy, yes.
You know, man, I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember that. Taking some shots. You know what? When, well, you know, I'll remember that.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you guys for watching the show. For Jack, Connor, Matt, and myself, this has been Halftime on the Hudson. Thank you guys. Stay safe.